You can now get a 30-day trial to experience The Athletic for free. Visit the link in the description below to try it now.
Hello, I'm JJ Bull. I'm an analyst for Tifo Football. We're going to look at Scotland at Euro 2020 and ask, are they any good? Before any of that, we're going to ask you to subscribe. But I'm going to ask you to please subscribe to this new channel, Tifo IRL. We want you to come and see all of our videos. You can put the subscribe button and push that, and then you'll get all the videos we do with this lovely tactics board all the way through the Euros. Give it a like and comment, all that sort of stuff as well, because it all helps. I'm sure you've seen this a lot of times in other YouTube videos, which do exist. But yes, that's what I really want you to do. And then we're going to look at whether Scotland are any good and ask, what do you do when all your best players are left back? So, you should look at how Scotland are going to play. It's probably going to be a 3-5-2. Steve Clarke, very good manager, has used a 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1 in his time, but it's definitely settled, I think, on a 3-5-2, 3-4-3, 5-2-1-2. The numbers don't matter. Essentially, it's a back three. And one of the main reasons for this is not only do you get defensive stability, but Andy Robertson and Kieran Tierney, probably the two best players on the team, can both play in the same system. Now, the way it works is that Andy Robertson, when he plays for Liverpool, always makes these really advanced attacking runs, but he also tends to receive the ball even from build-up near the halfway. Most of his touches on any sort of touch map you'll see with Liverpool games, he's often in these areas, providing crosses. He gets into these areas to get on the end of moves. He's a great player. He's the captain of the squad as well. You can't not have him playing at all. Now, next to him is Kieran Tierney, who can play at left centre-back and left wing back. He's done it all. So at Arsenal, he is mostly played as a left centre-back or left back. Can play at left wing back too. But in Scotland, he plays as this left-sided centre-back. Now, when Robertson goes up, he can tuck across, and it just sort of suits the way that the team wants to defend. He'll often make underlapping runs, does that quite a lot. He might even end up overlapping Robertson as Robertson comes inside to these sorts of positions as well. But yeah, the system isn't designed around getting those two into the team, but it's one of the only ways you can get them both in, other than playing Tierney at right back. He's left-footed, doesn't make a lot of sense. Another question we have to look at in terms of getting best players into the team. John McGinn is one of the best players in the team. He's going to play probably as a 10, that will come to the midfield after. Scott McTominay. So, had a great season at Manchester United. One of their most important players, is a box-to-box midfielder, I would say. But for Scotland, he either plays in a midfield 2 or 3, but he can also sometimes play at central defence on the right-hand side. Now, when he plays here, it means someone else can come into the midfield for Scotland, but his ball distribution is really, really important. So Scotland aren't the best at keeping possession in pressure situations, especially when they're being pressed. McTominay gives you a way out. So defensively, he can make positional errors because he's not a central defender. He just looks like one because he's big and tall. He's really quite attacking when you look at the way he plays for United. So playing in this sort of position here gives you an option to get the ball out, so you can make use of people like Christie or Ryan Fraser or Shea Adams making runs to get onto that. But also just playing out from the back, making these short, sharp passes, that's what I'm trying to say, out from the back. And that really helps creating little triangles and stuff like that. I'd like him to play in midfield. I'm not the manager, as well you know. And yeah, that's one thing. Now, two excellent left backs, one centre midfielder who can play at right centre back. The central defence, not sure. It's not one of the strongest points of the entire team. Grant Hanley's probably going to start as centre back. Good in the air, good at attacking set pieces as well, especially. Then the other centre back could be Liam Cooper from Leeds. It could be Declan Gallagher, just signed for Aberdeen. It could be Jack Hendry, who spent the season at Oostende. He's from Celtic. It's going to be a mixture of Hanley, Tierney, and one other. And it might change from game to game. But that's how the defence is going to look. And now we should look at how the midfield and the forwards are going to look and how Scotland can actually score goals. The midfield is going to be a 2-1-2 most of the time. It could also come around to be like this 3-4-3 shape. It'll change depending on who they're playing against. But the midfield probably going to be McTominay. Might also include Callum McGregor. And McGregor's going to give you that kind of, he's a 6 really. So McGregor will play as a 6. In that position, he can drop and receive play from the centre backs, but he can also move into play as 8 if you need to. John McGinn can play either as a 10 if he's in this position here, but he can also play as part of a midfield 3 or a 2. They've got quite a lot of options. You've got quite a lot of options for Scotland in this sort of team. A lot of it depends on how they want to construct play. Now, the striker is crucial to how Scotland are going to play. Shea Adams has just been nationalised. He's now a Scottish player. Very talented forward. He's got a good first touch, great movement, quick, strong, and he likes to shoot from about 20 yards out. And that is surprisingly important for Scotland because they don't spend a lot of time being patient in the opposition third. So if we assume Adams is going to start, it might be Lyndon Dykes, who plays for Queen's Park Rangers, because he's good at receiving the ball from long balls, basically. They're going to either go long or they're going to build up from the back under certain circumstances. Most of the time, it's going to go long towards forwards like Adams or Dykes. So let's say it's Adams. What they're going to try and do is get Adams to either take it in on the chest and lay it off, and then someone like Ryan Christie, excellent as a 10. He can play as an inside forward off the right-hand side because he's left-footed. And from these sorts of positions, he's going to come inside and take a lot of shots from these sorts of areas. Now, like we were saying, Scotland don't tend to be patient when building or in their approach play. When they've got a chance to shoot, they will take it. And a lot of goals, even Christie's goal against Serbia, which is the one that got Scotland to the tournament in the first place from the playoffs, was him coming out from this sort of position here and hitting it's just such a good goal, and he plays a reverse shot into the bottom corner from this sort of position here. The goals that Scotland tend to score in the box tend to be from set pieces or from John McGinn joining in. So again, another tactic will be the ball out long to Adams, McGinn running along and getting a finish from these sorts of positions, or McGinn will do a bicycle kick in the box. It's another thing that they can do. In terms of keeping the ball moving around the midfield, the width's going to come from Robertson and probably Stephen O'Donnell on the right. 2 different options. John Fleck, who you can see over here, is in quarantine because just before we recorded this, he tested positive for COVID-19. Not sure when this video comes out how that's going to play out, but not sure whether he'll be able to feature at the very start. Anyway, lots of options. So, if McGinn is playing as part of a 3, you can also put in someone like Ryan Fraser. So Fraser can come in for Christie, and this happened quite a lot in qualifying. So you'll have Fraser will play as almost a second striker. He can go either side of the main forward, really useful. He helps with the high press because he's got lots of energy. He's also just a good footballer, and he can hit shots from 20 yards, which again is really important for how Scotland are going to score goals. He scored a pretty crucial goal against Czech Republic, actually. So we'll take Adams off and put Lyndon Dykes on. It was in maybe the 5th or 6th minute. Can't remember exactly the minute it was. But Dykes, the ball comes into Dykes early. Dykes manages to poke it through, and Fraser makes a lovely run from out to in and just finishes like that. Everything kind of comes off a striker, so you've got runners. So it's all about the striker giving you depth, and then the midfielders will often run in to join in. And I count midfielders with Ryan Christie, Ryan Fraser, Stuart Armstrong if he plays, and James Forrest will probably play in the right wing back if he plays. David Turnbull is another that some people might not know about. I'm going to put him on now to show you what he does. Turnbull had a brilliant season at Celtic. He is an 8, can play as a 10 as well. It's a bit of a skewed statistic, doesn't really work, but for chances created per 90, according to Who Scored, Turnbull is more creative in the Scottish Premiership than Lionel Messi in La Liga. I know that stat doesn't work, but it gives you an indication that Turnbull is good at creating chances for a very good team. Not sure how much game time he'll get, but Turnbull will join the midfield and give Scotland something extra. There's a lot of options that they've got there, lots of ways to create chances, but mostly it's going to be long hits from the goalkeeper, players dropping into position, players making runs in behind Robertson, O'Donnell. O'Donnell's got a good right foot for delivering crosses, and then you might even have, rather than having Fraser or something like that, if you're going purely for looking for crosses, Dykes and Adams might play up front as a pair, And then you're going to look to try and get balls into the box for them to attack, and probably have John McGinn in behind, looking to play on the second balls. Lots of different options. It's all about being compact and defensively sound. So what will be really important for Scotland, and in terms of how good they are, is how they defend. We know the 3 becomes a 5 very quickly, and I think it'll depend on how they play against different teams. So like Czech Republic, beat Czech Republic twice in the last couple of years. Once was a win that probably doesn't count towards the tournament because the Czech Republic were decimated by a coronavirus issue, so they'd lost a lot of players. But on the second game they played, Scotland won 1-0, and that was most of the top lads from Czech Republic were there, Stochek and Sufal, all the big guys. But they played a 3-4-1-2, which looks like this when they play, which also can defend as a 4 when it needs to. Maybe begin on the left like this, and the players will just move into like this. What you often find though is the team shape is largely this kind of 2-1-2. So they defend quite narrow, and the idea is that you show play wide. So when opposition teams build up, if they want to build from the back, and most teams do now, I think Czech Republic might be one of the only ones who will go long. England might go long actually, but mostly they're going to try and build from the back. Scotland aren't going to try and win the ball straight away and press them. The shape is built so they can do that if they want to because they're close together, but they will mostly stay in this narrow kind of shape. The defence will stay a little bit deeper, and that will show play into these wide areas here. And then the team can shuttle along. So the ball goes out here, Robertson attacks it, tries to show them back. It's not about winning the ball as part of a high press really, and sometimes they can be guilty of not being aggressive enough trying to win the ball back. But yeah, that's mostly what happens. Same thing, and you go to this side here, the ball goes out to the left-hand side, O'Donnell will shift up, try and get close to them straight away. Now, the big problem is when they do this, is that they leave this sort of space here between the midfield 2 or 3 and the back 5. This is kind of crucial. It happens not often, but often enough for it to have been the thing that I've noticed looking through past Scotland games. What will happen is the opposition team will have players who are going to join me now. There we go. Thank you for being part of my presentation. What they'll do is they'll have a striker up here keeping the defence busy, and a midfielder will just run into this space here, and as long as they can get the ball into here, either a chip pass or maybe they're gonna just play through the lines because it's quite a narrow, you see. You can get beyond them, and then you often get a situation where it's maybe 3v3 or 3v2, and Scotland have to chase them a little bit, and that's not ideal. That's one of the things that happens. Another thing that happens is that, in fact, we'll just pull them back to show you. So Scotland are going to defend quite a lot in this tournament, and what you'll often get is the back 5 will get flat with 3 centre backs defending. This will be the same as set pieces and open play as well. These 3 centre backs are going to defend this 6-yard box and help protect the goalkeeper. Robertson will be here, O'Donnell around a bit here, protecting from crosses. And then what happens is that because of that space that appears, the midfield maybe doesn't drop quite quick enough. So say the opposition team, random white team here, are able to get here. What a lot of teams will probably try and do in this tournament is, rather than hit the ball high into the box, because you've got Grant Hanley and Liam Cooper and Scott McKenna, big guys who head it away, is you're probably going to have a lot of teams looking to exploit the space here. And they'll do that by getting close to the line and hitting cutbacks into this area. And unless the midfield can get back to squash that, there'll be chances for opposition players to score on the edge of the box. The only thing is Scotland don't want to squash that space too much because it just invites too much pressure. The opposition team can surround them, squash them in, and then it's only a matter of time before they score. And again, Scotland are happy to clear the ball. They do not care if they're going to put it out for touch, knock it long. Adams or Lyndon Dykes are going to be looking to receive that ball high up, hold it, try and take the team up to the place, win a set piece, and get out from there. It's kind of weird. Like Scotland are, you can almost describe it as being more turn-based, than fluid flowing. So it's a bit more like Civilization than Age of Empires. Like they'll happily put the ball out, reset, and go from there. And speaking of that, what often happens in that kind of turn-based bad analogy is that they'll even have the certain setups for throw-ins. So what you might see quite a lot is that same 5-2-1-2 formation set up. I'll show you it here. But they'll move it from the center of the pitch to out wide. Now, let's move the lads over here. You can probably ignore all the white dots at the moment, but we'll move them into, I know they're playing against, I don't know, 6 or 7 men, but we're going to go with it. Now, say the opposition has a throw-in. Over here, they are positioned exactly so that when the ball is thrown to someone here or here, the players are just going to move onto it. They're all close enough together that if the ball bounces around, they win the second ball. It's the whole point of being narrow like this. If they do win it, the first thing that's going to happen, the ball's here, the ball's thrown here, say, Christie can't close it down, that ball's going to get switched around. And by the time it gets over, they're going to be able to run across here, quite tiring, but this is what they'll do, and they'll be able to get across here. And Robertson will already have attacked that person there, trying to stop the ball getting in. So you're trying to shift the opposition side to side, trying to block it all the time. But they've got, and the way this kind of looks, what was it? We'll try and give it a name. It looks a little bit like the lion that Rafiki draws in The Lion King when he draws Simba on the tree. Do you have a name for that? It's one of the sort of things you'll find Scotland doing. But yeah, let's try and figure out if they're going to be any good and how they're going to get on in the tournament. What to expect from Scotland? Are they going to win the Euros? Maybe. Possibly not. Obviously, your tactics are going to change from game to game depending on who they're playing. First game is against Czech Republic. Could be a difficult one. So already beaten them in a game within the last year or so, and that was when they had players like Souček and that going on. And I think they'll probably play the same sort of shape, which is a 3-4-1-2. So your 3 is your centre backs, your 4 is across here, your midfield, your 1 is going to be John McGinn making the runs, and either Christie or possibly Armstrong or Ryan Fraser is going to play alongside one of Adams or Lyndon Dykes. Probably what you're going to get, and providing no mistakes are made, and say Scotland were to take advantage of a set piece or just get one of those lovely goals from someone running off of the striker, every chance of getting something out of Czech Republic. The game after that is England. I think that's a bit more of a difficult one. We'll probably find Scotland fall into more of a 4-3-3, a 3-4-3 I should say. So you'll have a striker it'll be quite isolated, and you're going to have Robertson largely held back by wherever England do. England might play a 3 actually, they might even go to a back 3 in this sort of game. But we're going to have this 3-4-3 Scotland will play with 2 midfielders. It might be McGinn in the middle, and then you can play Fraser or Armstrong as one of the wide players. We'll assume it's McGinn for now, and then you'll get this. The wide players won't get forward too much. McTominay probably won't even get forward that much. He might even play at centre back, but mostly it's going to be Adams trying to feed the ball into Adams or Dykes, and they're going to get the runs of McGinn or Christie in behind. Lots of shots from 20 yards, because you never know what will happen. If you don't have a goal, you're not going to have a goal. That's the saying. Write that down. That should be a slogan. It's a bad slogan. Okay, and after the England game, so obviously Scotland have won both games 3 or 4-0, and then we're on to the final game, which is of course against Croatia. Croatia's a different game entirely. They have one of the best midfields in the entire tournament. Players like Luka Modric, you've got Marcelo Brozovic. Yeah, all the guys, all the lads are there, and so you probably can't beat them man for man. What you will do, I'd imagine, is definitely flood the midfield so there's a 3. So you're at least man-to-man with Croatia's midfield 3. And then the problem is going to be 5-3-2, yeah. And with this midfield 3, you're probably going to want to play wider, basically to avoid the midfield. So a couple of things. almost certainly going to get longer balls from David Marshall out from the back. He's going to look definitely for the striker and a runner off of him. Be very few, and then you're going to have much more attack needed from Robertson and O'Donnell. Might be a game where James Forrest plays rather than O'Donnell because he's better going forward, not good defensively. But that means you're going to have maybe just 4 attacking at any given time. You're going to protect the midfield with a 3 against 3 and largely kind of bypass it. It might sound a bit daft, but that's the way to do it. Get into your wide players, maybe try and get a 2v1 with these guys here against the fullback, get O'Donnell in. O'Donnell's going to have to try and get the ball in, or if it's Forrest, he'll try and get the ball in. Yeah, you don't want to take on, you want to know your strengths, you want to know your limitations. Scotland have some good players, could absolutely get some good results in the group stage. God, I hope so. But yeah, as ever, it's there's an awful lot of hope for the Sporting Scotland in these sorts of tournaments. Are they any good? Yes, sort of quite good. And that's how Scotland are going to be at Euro 2020.
The Athletic is home to some of the world's best sports journalists, including David Ornstein, Daniel Taylor, Ollie Kay, Amy Lawrence and Rafa Honigstein. There are journalists dedicated to each Premier League team, so every fan gets the coverage they deserve, not just the big clubs. And you can try it for free now for 30 days. See the link in the description.